Joining me now is Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. Governor, good to have you with us tonight.
Nice to be with you, Ed.
Is this going to be a slam dunk for Arlen Specter, or do you think that Joe Sestak, if he jumps into this, and it looks like he will, do you think he can mount a serious threat to the political future of Arlen Specter?
Well, let me begin by saying I'm a great admirer of Joe Sestak and worked hard to get him elected and reelected, and I'm going to work hard to get him reelected when he runs for Congress next year, not for the Senate. Joe should not run for the Senate in the Democratic primary. He'd get killed. And let me tell you why he'd get killed. Number one, Arlen Specter's been going around Pennsylvania for 3 decades as the senator. He goes into every one of the 67 counties each and every year, and he holds town meetings and he does constituent service, and he's never asked whether people are Republican or Democrat. The last month or so, the last 3 weeks or so, we've been having regional conferences with elected Democratic Party chairs and elected Democratic officials in every region of the state. It's unbelievable how many of them know Arlen personally and admired him and supported him even though he was a Republican in the past. You can't buy that, and you can't overcome that in one campaign. It's been 30 years. Number two, Arlen Specter will raise 2, 3, 4 times as much money as Joe Sestak. Number three, Arlen Specter has the support of the president and the vice president, a president who's got a 90% approval rating among registered Democrats in Pennsylvania. Joe Sestak does not want to be one of the candidates who ran against Bob Casey in the Democratic primary when the whole governmental establishment was for Bob Casey. He doesn't want to be marginalized. He doesn't want to get 15, 18%. Joe should run for Congress again, establish some seniority. His time will come. He's a terrific guy. His time will come, but it's not this year.
Governor, you're very strong with that answer tonight. It almost sounds as if Joe Sestak would be making a fool of himself if he were to try this. Would you go that far?
Well, I wouldn't say making a fool of himself, because Joe's a terrific guy and has got great credentials. But he's being talked into it by people on the extreme of the party, and they're good people and they care about the right issues, but they don't represent the broad slice. This is a conservative state. I know people shake their heads when I say that, but the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania is more Bob Casey's party than it is Ed Rendell's party. I won because I was a great regional candidate. Ed and I won re-election because I think I did a good job. But our Democrats are middle-of-the-road Democrats, with the exception of the Southeast. And Arlen Specter appeals very much to them. And it's not so much who I support or who Bob Casey supports. It's all these party chairmen and all these elected officials that Arlen's been taking care of for years, and most people think that Arlen supported our constituencies, and he has over the years.
So the infrastructure of the party in Pennsylvania, no matter what side it is going to be with Arlen Specter. So the question begs, is anybody willing to step up and tell Joe Sestak, don't do this? That we got a good enough guy, that he's going to be good on the issues? Because Mr. Sestak was on this program, and the point that he made, he didn't like the idea that there were so many in the party, including yourself, including the president, the vice president, that were willing to anoint Arlen Specter because he'd been around for a long time.
Well, we anointed Bob Casey because he was a good candidate, and he had been around for a long time, even though he was a young age. He started very young. And it's not a question of anointing. In the end, people decide, not me, not even the president. People decide. But when they hear from the president that we need Arlen Specter, when people understand that Arlen Specter single-handedly saved the stimulus program for this country and put his political rear end on the line, when they understand that he got $10 billion more for NIH to help us do research on every incredible disease that we're facing as a human race, people understand, and they like Arlen Specter, and they understand that he's who the president wants. Look, I'm the last person to tell Joe not to run, because people told me not to run when I decided to run for governor, because no one from Philadelphia had been elected since 1914 as governor. So I'm not about to say to someone, don't run, but I think Joe should think about what Arlen has done, the things, the alliances he's made over the years, the constituent service operation that he has that's second to none, and the fact that he does have the support of Democrats, particularly the president.
Well, Labor has told me that they're not going to sit this thing out. Now, would this competition make Arlen Specter a better Democrat when it comes to voting on Employee Free Choice Act? free trade issues, and also health care reform. What about those three?
Well, it's interesting. Both Joe Sestak and Arlen Specter are trying to broker a compromise on the Employee Free Choice Act because they know there aren't enough votes right now. There are at least, and you know this better than I do, Ed, how many Democratic senators will not vote for the Employee Free Choice Act?
Well, they're a little nervous about it. There's no question about that. But
right.
I also
and both
think
Arlen and Joe are both trying to make some changes in the act so that everyone can support it, so that they can have a broad base of support. Yeah. So I think Arlen Specter has been for our constituents for the longest time. You know, he was called a rhino, a Republican in name only, and in fact there was a lot of truth to that. He's always been there for poor people, for working people, and he's been there for labor. He ran against a good Democratic congressman, Joe Huffle, in the 2004 election, and organized labor was for Arlen Specter. Arlen is going to do the right thing on the Employee Free Choice Act, just like he did on the stimulus. He's going to try to broker a compromise. Ironically, Joe's doing the same thing in the House. So, look, these guys are very much the same. Joe Sestak's not a liberal Democrat either.
No, he's not. But he is better to labor, and he is wants a public option on health care. And he's not the free trader that Arlen Specter's been. I think your analysis and your take is great. You know, I don't want to go against you on anything. I mean, I always want you on my team. You got Pennsylvania down. There's no question about that. But from my instincts, I think Americans are tired of the good old boy network. And I love competition, and I think competition makes people better. That was my op-ed last night.
And you're right about that, except we will lose a terrific congressman. Joe Sestak runs against Arlen Specter. He's out of the Congress after just 2 short terms. We will lose a terrific congressman, and when he loses to Arlen, he fades into political obscurity. He's a guy who should be there for us. We don't have a deep bench among Democrats in Pennsylvania. We need Joe to stay in the Congress and do the good work he's been doing.
Governor, good to have you on the Ed Show
tonight.
Thanks,
Ed. Thanks very much.
Thank you so